John Adeyemi sat in the corner of the exclusive nightclub, watching his girlfriend dance with another man. She thought he had left. She thought nobody was watching. But he saw everything. Her hands were around the stranger's neck. Her lips touched his. The same lips that kissed John goodbye just 30 minutes ago, telling him she loved him more than anything in the world. He didn't move. He just watched. His heart felt heavy, like someone had placed a rock inside his chest. This was the fourth woman. The fourth woman who claimed to love him but only loved his money. John was only 28 years old, but he was already tired. Tired of fake smiles. Tired of women who looked at his expensive watch before they looked at his face. Tired of relationships that felt like business deals. He was the heir to Adeyemi Industries. His family owned hotels, real estate, oil companies. He had more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. People called him one of the most eligible bachelors in the country. Magazine covers, exclusive parties, private jets. But none of it made him happy. He stood up and walked out of the club. His driver rushed to open the car door, but John waved him away. He needed to walk. He needed to think. The city streets were busy. People rushed past him, but nobody recognized him. He wore a simple shirt and jeans tonight. No designer labels. No jewelry. For a moment, he was just another person on the street. And it felt good. By the time he got home to his penthouse, he had made a decision. He called his assistant, David, at 2 in the morning. "Sir, is everything okay?" David's sleepy voice came through the phone. "I need you to do something for me," John said. His voice was calm but firm. "And I need you to ask no questions." There was a pause. "I'm listening, sir." "I'm leaving. For 6 months, maybe longer. I don't want anyone to know where I am. I don't want phone calls. I don't want business meetings. I'm disappearing. Sir, I don't understand. Is someone threatening you? Should I call security?" "No threats. I just need to live a different life for a while." John walked to his window and looked out at the city lights. "I need to know what it feels like to be ordinary. To meet people who don't know my name or my bank account. To see if anyone can love me for who I am, not what I have." David was silent for a long moment. "Sir, with all respect, this sounds dangerous. You don't know what life is like for ordinary people. It's hard. That's exactly why I need to do it." John's voice was steady. "I've lived in comfort my entire life. I've never struggled for anything. I've never had to work with my hands. I've never known what it's like to worry about money. Maybe that's why I can't find real love. Maybe I need to become someone else first." "Where will you go?" "I'll find a place. A small neighborhood. I'll get a job. A real job. Something simple. I'll live like everyone else. And if someone recognizes you, they won't. I'll make sure of it." John had already thought this through. "I'll cut my hair differently. I'll dress like a regular person. I'll use my middle name. Nobody looks at poor people the way they look at rich people. I'll be invisible." David sighed heavily. "If you're serious about this, sir, at least let me set up a safety plan. An emergency contact. Something." "Fine. But only for real emergencies. Life or death situations. Nothing else." "Yes, sir." John hung up the phone and looked around his penthouse. Expensive furniture. Original paintings on the walls. A view that cost more than most people earn in their lifetime. Tomorrow, he would leave all of this behind. Tomorrow, he would find out if anyone in the world could love John the man, not John the billionaire. He lay down on his bed, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind kept racing. What if nobody loved him when he had nothing? What if his personality wasn't enough? What if the only valuable thing about him was his money? These questions scared him more than any business deal ever had. But he had to know the truth. By morning, John Adeyemi the billionaire would disappear, and John the ordinary man would be born. 3 weeks later, John stood in front of Gideon's Auto Repairs, covered in engine oil and exhausted. His hands hurt. His back ached. His clothes were stained with grease that wouldn't wash out. He smelled like gasoline and sweat. This was nothing like his old life. "John, you call that fixing a car?" His boss, Mr. Gideon, shouted across the workshop. "My grandmother can work faster than you, and she's been dead for 10 years. The other mechanics laughed. They always laughed at him. "Sorry, sir. I'm still learning. he said quietly, wiping his hands on an old rag. Still learning. Another mechanic named Tunde walked over, shaking his head. You've been here 3 weeks. A child could learn faster. Where did you even work before? In a kitchen. More laughter filled the workshop. John bit his tongue. In his old life, one phone call could buy this entire shop. One signature could make these men work for him. But that wasn't the point. He was here to be humble, to understand struggle, to be real. Leave the boy alone, said Samuel, an older mechanic who sometimes showed him kindness. Everyone starts somewhere. Yes, but most people start with brain cells, Tunde said, laughing at his own joke. A customer walked in, a woman in expensive clothes driving a luxury car. She looked at John with disgust. Don't let that one touch my car, she told Mr. Gideon, pointing at John. He looks dirty and confused. I don't trust him. Don't worry, madam. The professionals will handle your vehicle, Mr. Gideon assured her, then turned to John. You, go clean the bathroom. That's more your level. John's jaw tightened, but he nodded and walked away. Behind him, he heard them all laughing again. Cleaning the bathroom, he stared at himself in the broken mirror. His reflection looked different now. His hair was rough. His skin was darker from working in the sun. His hands had cuts and calluses. The expensive skincare products were gone. The personal trainer was gone. The easy life was gone. This was real struggle. This was what most people lived every single day. And it was harder than anything he'd ever done. By the end of the day, he was so tired he could barely walk. His small rented room was nothing like his penthouse. One bed with a thin mattress. One table. One chair. Walls with peeling paint. A ceiling fan that barely worked. He earned just enough money to eat 1 meal a day and pay his rent. Nothing extra. No comfort. No luxury. Just survival. His stomach was empty and angry. He needed food. Samuel had told him about a small restaurant down the street. The woman who owns it is strict, but the food is good and cheap. That's where we all eat. John walked to the restaurant as the sun began to set. His whole body hurt. He counted the money in his pocket. Just enough for plain rice. No meat. No extras. The restaurant was simple. Plastic chairs. Metal tables. The smell of cooking filled the air and made his stomach hurt even more. He sat down in the corner, trying not to draw attention to himself. A few customers were there, talking and eating. Nobody noticed him. He was invisible, just like he wanted. Then she appeared. A young woman came out from the kitchen carrying plates of food. She wore a simple dress that had been washed so many times the color was fading. Her hair was tied back in a simple style. She looked tired, like she'd been working all day. But when she smiled at a customer, something changed in her face. Even though she looked exhausted, her smile was real. It reached her eyes. John watched as she served an old man at another table. The old man was counting his money, looking worried. John could see he was trying to figure out if he had enough. The young woman leaned down and whispered something to the old man. Then she walked away. When she came back with his food, John noticed there was extra meat on the plate. The old man looked confused. But I didn't pay for. Sure, she said softly, smiling. Just eat, Papa. Everyone deserves a good meal. The old man's eyes filled with tears. God bless you, my daughter. John felt something move in his chest. He couldn't remember the last time he saw someone be kind without wanting something in return. The young woman turned and her eyes met his. For a moment, they just looked at each other. She had the saddest eyes he'd ever seen, but also the kindest. She walked over to his table. Good evening. What would you like to eat? Her voice was soft and gentle. Just plain rice, please, he said. No meat. No stew. Just rice. She wrote it down, but he saw her glance at him with concern. She noticed. She noticed he could only afford the cheapest meal on the menu. Are you sure? The stew is very good today. I'm sure. Thank you. She nodded slowly and walked away, but he saw her look back at him twice. When his food arrived, it was just plain white rice, exactly what he ordered. He ate slowly, making it last as long as possible. It wasn't much, but it stopped the pain in his stomach. As he ate, he watched the young woman work. She moved quickly, serving customers, cleaning tables, going back to the kitchen. Nobody thanked her. Nobody seemed to notice how hard she worked. But John noticed. When he finished eating and paid his bill, their eyes met again at the door. "Thank you for the food," he said. "You're welcome. Come back anytime." Something in her voice made him want to tell her everything. That he wasn't really a poor mechanic. That he had enough money to buy this restaurant 100 times over. That he could change her life with one phone call. But he said nothing. He just nodded and walked out into the night. As he walked back to his small room, John realized something important. For the first time since he started this experiment, he felt something real. That young woman's kindness to the old man. Her gentle smile. Her tired but dignified way of working. That was more beautiful than anything money could buy. He didn't even know her name, but he knew he would go back to that restaurant tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day until he understood what made someone so poor yet so rich in spirit. Blessing woke up at 5 in the morning, just like every other day. Her body was sore from sleeping on the thin mat on the floor. The room she stayed in was small, barely enough space for her mat and one box that held all her clothes. She could hear Mama Chico already moving around in the kitchen, pots and pans making noise. That meant she needed to get up immediately. If Mama Chico came in and found her still lying down, there would be trouble. She stood up quickly, folded her mat, and pushed it into the corner. Then she put on one of her 2 dresses. This one was blue, but the color had faded from too much washing. She had worn it so many times that there were small holes near the hem. "Blessing." Mama Chica's voice cut through the quiet morning like a knife. "Are you still sleeping in there? Come out now." "I'm coming, Ma," she called back, tying her hair quickly. She rushed to the kitchen where Mama Chico stood with her arms crossed, looking angry as usual. "You're late," the older woman said, even though it was barely past 5. "Sorry, Ma." "Sorry doesn't cook food. Sorry doesn't make money. Get to work. We have to prepare everything before customers start coming. And make sure you wash all those pots from yesterday. I found one with oil still on it. Are you trying to poison my customers?" "No, Ma. I'll wash them properly." Blessing spent the next 3 hours cooking, cleaning, and preparing the restaurant for the day. Her hands were rough from washing dishes in cold water without soap. Her back hurt from bending over the stove. But she never complained. This had been her life for 12 years, ever since her parents died in a car accident. She was only 8 years old then. Her uncle had taken her in, but his wife, Mama Chico, made it clear from day one that she was not welcome. "You're lucky we didn't leave you on the street," Mama Chico would say whenever she made a mistake. "You're lucky I give you food to eat and a roof over your head. This is more than you deserve." Blessing learned not to argue. She learned not to cry where anyone could see. She learned to be grateful for the little she had, even when it hurt. By noon, the restaurant was full of customers. Workers from nearby shops came to eat. Mechanics from Gideon's workshop. Market women taking a break. Everyone came to Mama Chica's restaurant because the food was good and cheap. That's when Blessing saw him again. The mechanic from yesterday. He walked in slowly, looking around like he wasn't sure if he should stay. His clothes were dirty with oil and grease. His face looked tired and sad. He sat in the same corner as yesterday, trying not to be noticed. Blessing picked up her notepad and walked over to him. When she got close, she saw his hands. They were cut and bruised, like he'd been working with sharp metal all day. "Good afternoon," she said softly. "What would you like to eat?" He looked up at her, and she saw something in his eyes. Pain. Loneliness. The same thing she felt every day. "Just plain rice again," he said quietly. "No meat." She wrote it down, but her heart felt heavy. Yesterday it was plain rice. Today it was plain rice again. She knew what that meant. He didn't have money for anything else. "Are you sure?" she asked gently. "The chicken is very fresh today." "I'm sure. Thank you." She nodded and walked back to the kitchen. As she prepared his plate of plain white rice, she thought about how hungry he must be. How tired he must be from working all day in that hot workshop. How he probably went to bed with his stomach still empty. She looked around. Mama Chico was outside talking to another customer. Ruth was in the back room counting money. Nobody was watching. Her hands moved quickly. She took a piece of chicken from the pot and placed it on top of his rice. Then she covered it with a little bit of stew so it would look like it belonged there. Her heart was beating fast as she carried the plate to his table. What if Mama Chico saw? What if she got in trouble? But she couldn't stop herself. She placed the food in front of him and leaned down close to his ear. "Don't tell anyone," she whispered. Before he could respond, she walked away quickly. John stared at the plate in front of him. There was meat, a whole piece of chicken. He looked up to find her, but she was already serving another customer, acting like nothing had happened. He looked down at the food again. His throat felt tight. His eyes burned with tears he couldn't explain. Nobody had done something like this for him in years. Not since he became rich. Not since people knew his name and his money. Everyone wanted something from him. Everyone expected something in return. But this girl, he didn't even know her name. She had given him something for free. Something she probably needed for herself. She had taken a risk to help him. He picked up the piece of chicken slowly and took a bite. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. Not because of the flavor, but because of what it meant. Someone cared. Someone saw his struggle and wanted to help. He ate slowly, making every bite last. And for the first time since he left his old life, he didn't feel completely alone. When he finished eating, he walked to the counter to pay. She was there, taking money from another customer. When it was his turn, he looked into her eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For everything." She smiled just a little. "It's just food." "No," he said. "It's more than that." She didn't say anything else, but he saw her cheeks turn slightly red before she looked away. As he walked out of the restaurant, he made a decision. He would come back tomorrow, and every day after that. Not just for the food, but to understand this person who had more kindness in her heart than all the rich people he'd ever known. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing for certain. She was different from everyone else in the world. And somehow, that made everything he was going through worth it. 2 weeks passed, and John came to the restaurant every single day. Every day, he ordered plain rice with no meat. And every day, Blessing secretly added a piece of meat to his plate when nobody was watching. It became their silent agreement. Their secret. She would place the food in front of him, lean close, and whisper the same words, "Don't tell anyone." And every time, John felt his heart beat a little faster. He started arriving earlier, just to watch her work. The way she moved around the restaurant with quiet grace. The way she treated every customer with respect, even the rude ones. The way she smiled at children and gave them extra attention. She was beautiful, but not in the way the women in his old life were beautiful. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't have expensive clothes or jewelry. Her beauty came from somewhere deeper. From her spirit. From her soul. And the more he watched her, the more he realized he was falling in love. One afternoon, the restaurant was less busy than usual. Most of the lunch customers had already left. John sat in his usual corner, eating slowly, watching her clean tables. She walked past his table, carrying dirty plates. Their eyes met for just a second, and she smiled. That smile did something to him. It made him feel warm inside, like the sun was shining directly on his heart. "Excuse me," he said softly. She stopped and turned to him. "Yes. Do you need something?" I just wanted to say thank you. For what you do for me every day. I know you're taking a risk." She looked around quickly to make sure nobody was listening, then sat down at his table for just a moment. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I can see you're struggling. Everyone needs help sometimes. Why do you do it? You don't even know me." She was quiet for a moment, looking down at her hands. "My parents died when I was young. After they died, I had nobody. My uncle took me in, but his wife, she doesn't like me. I know what it's like to be hungry, to feel alone. I can't watch someone else go through that without helping." John's chest felt tight. "I'm sorry about your parents. It was a long time ago." She looked up at him, and he saw tears in her eyes that she was trying to hide. But some pain never goes away completely. He wanted to reach across the table and hold her hand. He wanted to tell her that he understood pain too. That loneliness wasn't just for poor people. That he had felt empty for years, even when surrounded by everything money could buy. But before he could say anything, Ruth walked out from the back room. Ruth was Mama Chico's daughter, and she was nothing like Blessing. She was always dressed nicely, always looking down at others, always finding ways to cause trouble. She saw Blessing sitting at John's table and her eyes grew wide. "Blessing," she called out sharply. "What are you doing sitting down? There's work to do." Blessing jumped up immediately. "Sorry, I was just." "Just what?" "Chatting with customers while my mother pays you to work." Ruth walked closer, looking at John with disgust. "And this one? This dirty mechanic? You're wasting time talking to him." John felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept quiet. Getting angry would only make things worse for Blessing. "I wasn't wasting time," Blessing said quietly. "I was just. I don't want to hear excuses. Get back to work. Now." Ruth turned to John. "And you, don't disturb our workers. If you're done eating, you should leave." John stood up slowly, placing money on the table for his meal. He looked at Blessing one more time, trying to tell her with his eyes that he was sorry for getting her in trouble. Then he walked out. But Ruth wasn't finished. As soon as he left, she grabbed Blessing's arm roughly. "What's going on between you and that mechanic?" she demanded. "Nothing. I was just being polite to a customer." "Liar. I've been watching you. Every day he comes here, you give him special attention. Are you stupid? He's poor. He's dirty. He has nothing to offer you." "I'm not interested in him," Blessing said, even though her heart was screaming the opposite. "I'm just doing my job." Ruth stared at her for a long moment, then released her arm. "I'm going to tell my mother to watch you. If I find out you're sneaking around with that useless mechanic, you'll regret it." She walked away, leaving Blessing standing there with fear growing in her stomach. That evening, John couldn't stop thinking about what happened. He had gotten Blessing in trouble just by talking to her. Ruth had looked at him like he was dirt on the bottom of her shoe. In his old life, women like Ruth would bow to him. They would smile and laugh at his jokes and do anything to get his attention. But now, as a poor mechanic, he was treated like trash. The next day, he arrived at the restaurant nervous about what he might find. Would Blessing still be kind to him? Would she avoid him now to stay out of trouble? When he walked in, she was at the counter. Their eyes met across the room. For a second, he thought she might look away. But instead, she smiled. That small smile told him everything. She wasn't going to let Ruth or anyone else stop her from being kind. She wasn't going to treat him differently just because he was poor. He sat down at his usual table, and a few minutes later, she brought his food. As she placed it in front of him, she leaned down close to his ear. "Don't tell anyone," she whispered, just like always. He looked at the plate. There was meat, just like every other day. When he looked up at her, she was already walking away. But he saw something new in the way she moved. Something careful. Something scared. She was risking more now. Ruth was watching. Mama Chica would be told. The danger was getting worse. But she did it anyway. For him. That night, John lay in his small room, staring at the ceiling. His heart was full of emotions he couldn't name. Gratitude, admiration, fear, and something else. Something bigger. Love. He was falling in love with a woman who thought he was poor. A woman who helped him anyway. A woman who had nothing but gave everything. And tomorrow, he knew he had to tell her the truth. He had to tell her how he felt. Even if it was crazy. Even if it was impossible. Because if he didn't, he might lose her forever. Ruth went straight to her mother that evening, her eyes wide with fake concern. "Mama, I need to tell you something serious," she said, sitting down next to Mama Chico in the living room. Mama Chico looked up from counting the day's money. "What is it?" "It's about Blessing. I think she's doing something behind your back." The older woman's face immediately turned hard. "What do you mean?" "That mechanic from Gideon's workshop. The dirty one who comes every day. I've been watching them." Ruth leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was sharing a dangerous secret. "Mama, I think Blessing is in love with him." Mama Chica's eyes grew wide. "What?" "Yes, Mama. Every day when he comes, she gives him special attention. Today I caught them sitting together, talking like old friends. And Mama," Ruth paused for effect, "I think she's been giving him extra meat. Free meat. Your meat." Mama Chico stood up so fast her chair almost fell over. "She's been stealing from me? To feed that useless man?" "I didn't want to believe it either, Mama. But I've been watching. Every time she serves him, his plate has more food than what he paid for." The next morning, Mema Chico watched Blessing like a hawk. She pretended to be busy in the back, but her eyes never left the girl. When John walked in at his usual time, Mema Chico saw the way Blessing's face changed. Just for a second, there was a small smile, a light in her eyes. That was enough. Mema Chico watched as Blessing prepared the food. She watched as the girl looked around nervously, then quickly placed a piece of chicken on the plate of plain rice. So it's true, Mema Chico whispered to herself, her blood boiling. She waited until Blessing carried the food to John's table. She waited until the girl leaned down to whisper something in his ear. Then she exploded. Blessing. Her voice cut through the restaurant like a machete. Every customer stopped eating and turned to look. Blessing froze, the empty tray shaking in her hands. Mema Chico walked toward her slowly, her face twisted with rage. So this is what you do when you think I'm not watching. You steal from me to feed your boyfriend. Mema, The slap came so fast and so hard that Blessing stumbled backward. The tray fell from her hands and clattered on the floor. Shut up! Mema Chico screamed. Don't lie to me. I saw you. I saw you put meat on his plate. Meat that he didn't pay for. Meat that comes from my pocket. John jumped to his feet. Please, it's not her fault. And you? Mema Chico turned her anger on him. You think because you're a man, you can use my niece. You think you can come to my restaurant and steal from me. I never asked her to. I said shut up. She picked up a cup from a nearby table and threw it at him. He moved just in time, and it smashed against the wall behind him. The other customers were staring now, some with their mouths open, others whispering to each other. Mema, please, Blessing begged, tears running down her face. Don't do this here. Let's go outside and talk. Another slap, harder than the first. Blessing's lips split open, blood appearing at the corner of her mouth. You want to embarrass me? You want to destroy my business for a man who smells like oil and sweat. A man who can't even afford meat. Mema Chico grabbed Blessing's arm and started dragging her toward the door. Come. Let's go show your boyfriend's bosses what kind of man he is. No, please. Blessing tried to pull away, but Mema Chico's grip was too strong. John followed them outside. Please, leave her alone. I'll pay for all the meat. I'll pay double. Just don't hurt her. But Mema Chico wasn't listening. She dragged Blessing down the street toward Gideon's auto repairs, and John followed helplessly behind them. When they reached the workshop, all the mechanics stopped working. Mr. Gideon came out, wiping his hands on a rag. Madam, what's the problem? He asked. This is the problem. Mema Chico pushed Blessing forward so hard she almost fell. Your worker here has been using my niece to steal from me. Every day he comes to my restaurant, and every day she gives him free food. Tunde started laughing immediately. John, a girlfriend. This is too funny. Other mechanics joined in the laughter. Even some customers who had brought their cars and started laughing. See his face, another mechanic said. Even beggars have standards, but this one thinks he can get a woman. Mr. Gideon looked at John with disgust. Is this true? You've been causing trouble with customers. Sir, I never asked her to. I don't want to hear excuses. Mr. Gideon shouted. Do you know this woman's restaurant feeds half my workers? If she stops doing business with us because of you, I'll throw you out on the street. Mema Chico turned to John, her voice dripping with hate. Listen to me carefully, you useless man. If I ever see you near my restaurant again, if I ever hear that you spoke to Blessing, I will make sure you rot in jail. Do you understand me? John's hands were shaking. Every part of him wanted to tell them the truth. To tell them he could buy this entire workshop with one phone call. To tell them he had more money in his bank account than they would see in 10 lifetimes. But he looked at Blessing, standing there with blood on her lip and tears on her face, and he knew the truth wouldn't help her right now. It would only make things worse. I understand, he said quietly. Good. Mema Chico grabbed Blessing again and started walking away. John watched them go, his heart breaking into pieces. Behind him, his co-workers were still laughing and making jokes. Some customers were taking photos with their phones, probably to post on social media. Poor John, Tunde said loudly. Can't fix a car, can't get a girl. What can you do? Samuel, the old mechanic who was always kind to him, walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. Sorry, my brother. Women are trouble. Forget about her. But John couldn't forget. That night, he stood outside Blessing's uncle's house, hidden in the shadows. He could hear shouting inside. He could hear the sound of something hitting flesh. He could hear Blessing crying. Each sound was like a knife in his chest. He wanted to break down the door. He wanted to save her. But he couldn't. Not as a poor mechanic. Not without making everything worse. So he stood there in the dark, tears running down his face, feeling more powerless than he ever had in his entire life. 7 days passed. 7 days of torture. John went to work every morning, but his mind was never there. He couldn't focus. He made mistakes. Mr. Gideon shouted at him constantly, but he barely heard the words. All he could think about was Blessing. Was she okay? Was her uncle still hurting her? Did she think about him at all? He walked past the restaurant every evening, but he never went inside. Mama Chico had made her threat clear. If he went near Blessing again, there would be serious consequences. But staying away was killing him. On the 8th day, John couldn't take it anymore. It was late evening, almost dark. The workshop had closed for the day. He knew it was dangerous, but he had to see her. He had to know she was all right. He walked to the back of the restaurant where he knew they threw out the trash. Maybe, if he was lucky, she would come out. He waited in the shadows for almost an hour. His legs were tired. Mosquitoes bit his arms and neck. But he didn't move. Then the back door opened, and she appeared. She was carrying a bag of trash to the bin. In the dim light from the door, he could see her face. There was a bruise on her cheek that hadn't been there before. Her eyes looked tired and sad. Blessing, he called softly. She jumped, almost dropping the trash bag. She looked around quickly, fear in her eyes. It's me, John. She saw him in the shadows and her whole face changed. Relief, worry, joy, pain, all at once. She threw the trash in the bin quickly and walked toward him, looking back at the door to make sure nobody was watching. What are you doing here? She whispered urgently. If they see you. I had to see you. I had to know if you're okay. She opened her mouth to speak, but instead, tears started falling. Before he could think, she fell into his arms, her body shaking with sobs. He held her tight, his own tears mixing with hers. They stood there in the dark, holding each other like two people drowning, each one trying to save the other. I'm so sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry for what happened. I never meant to cause you trouble. It's not your fault, she said, her voice breaking. It's not your fault. They pulled apart slowly, but he kept his hands on her shoulders, looking into her eyes. Did they hurt you? He asked, though he already knew the answer. She nodded, wiping her tears. My uncle, he beat me. He said I was a disgrace. He said I was trying to destroy the family's reputation by talking to a poor mechanic. John's jaw tightened. His fists closed so hard his nails cut into his palms. I should have stopped them. I should have protected you. How could you? You couldn't do anything. She touched his face gently. John, we can't see each other anymore. It's too dangerous. If they catch us. I don't care about the danger, he said firmly. Blessing, I need to tell you something. I've been holding it inside for weeks, and I can't keep quiet anymore. She looked at him, waiting. He took a deep breath. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might break through his chest. I love you, he said. The words came out strong and clear. I have loved you from the moment I saw you give that old man extra meat. I have loved you through every smile, every kind word, every secret piece of chicken you put on my plate. You are the most beautiful person I have ever met, not because of your face, but because of your heart. Blessing's eyes went wide. Fresh tears started falling. I know I have nothing to offer you right now, John continued. I'm just a poor mechanic who can barely pay his rent. I sleep in a room with holes in the walls. I eat 1 meal a day. But I promise you, if you give me time, I will build something. I will become someone worthy of you. And when that day comes, I want to marry you. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then, slowly, she started shaking her head. John, Her voice was so soft he could barely hear it. I love you too. His heart stopped. What? I love you too, she said louder, crying and smiling at the same time. I have loved you from the beginning. Every day when I put meat on your plate, I wasn't just feeding a hungry customer. I was taking care of someone I cared about. Someone who made me feel seen for the first time in years. He pulled her close again, and this time, he kissed her. It was soft and gentle and filled with all the pain and hope and love they both carried. When they pulled apart, they were both crying. "But John," she said, her voice becoming serious. "Marriage? How can we even think about that? You're still learning your trade. You don't have money for rent. My uncle will never agree. Mama Chico will make sure of it." "I know," he said, holding her hands tight. "That's why I need time. Give me 6 months. 1 year. Let me finish learning. Let me save money. Let me open my own small shop. Then I'll come to your uncle like a proper man and ask for your hand." She looked down at their joined hands. "And what if he says no? What if nothing changes? Then we'll find another way. But Blessing, I'm not giving up on you. I'm not walking away. Even if it takes years, even if the whole world is against us, I will find a way to make you my wife." She looked up at him, and in her eyes, he saw something he'd been searching for his entire life. Not lust for money, not fake affection, but real, honest, pure love. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll wait for you. But please, be careful. Build your life slowly. Don't rush and make mistakes. I'd rather wait 5 years and have you whole than have you now and watch you struggle and break." He smiled, touching her face gently. "You're too good for this world. And you're too good for me," she said, smiling through her tears. Behind them, they heard a noise from the restaurant. Blessing's eyes went wide with fear. "I have to go," she said quickly. "If they find me missing." "Go," he said. "But remember, I love you. And I'm going to make you my wife. That's a promise." She nodded, kissed him quickly one more time, then ran back toward the restaurant door. John stood in the dock, watching her go. His whole body was shaking. Not from fear, not from cold, but from the weight of the promise he had just made. He had to succeed now. Failure wasn't an option. Because somewhere in that house was a woman who loved him, who believed in him, who was willing to wait for him. And he would die before he let her down. As he walked back to his small room that night, John Adeyemi made a decision. He would work harder than ever before. He would learn everything about fixing cars. He would save every coin. He would prove to everyone, to Mama Chico, to the uncle, to himself, that love was stronger than poverty. What he didn't know was that time was running out faster than he thought, and the next few weeks would test him in ways he never imagined. 3 weeks after their secret meeting, John's phone rang at midnight. He recognized the number immediately. It was his landlord. "Hello." John answered, sitting up in his small bed. "John, this is Mr. Bello. I'm calling about your rent." John's stomach dropped. He knew what was coming. "Yes, sir. I know I'm a few days late. I'll have it soon." "A few days?" The landlord's voice was sharp. "You're 2 weeks late. This is the 3rd time this year. I'm a patient man, but I have bills to pay too." "I understand, sir. Please, just give me 1 more week. I promise. 1 week. That's all. If I don't have my money by next Friday, you're out. I already have someone else who wants the room." The line went dead. John sat in the darkness, holding his phone. Panic rose in his chest like water filling a sinking boat. Where would he get the money? He barely made enough to eat. Every coin he saved disappeared the moment something broke or someone needed payment. He thought about calling his assistant David. 1 phone call and this problem would disappear. But that would mean giving up. That would mean admitting he couldn't survive as an ordinary man. And what about his promise to Blessing? How could he prove he could take care of her if he couldn't even pay his own rent? The next day at work, John tried to focus, but his mind was far away. His hands shook as he worked on an engine. Nothing seemed to go right. "John," Mr. Gideon shouted. "What's wrong with you today? You nearly stripped that bolt." "Sorry, sir. I'm just tired." "Tired? You think the rest of us aren't tired? Get your head in the game or go home." That evening, John walked slowly toward his room. His whole body felt heavy. The sun was setting, painting the sky red and orange, but he didn't notice. All he could think about was the rent money he didn't have. As he turned the corner near the restaurant, he stopped. Blessing was standing outside, taking out the trash. She hadn't seen him yet. He knew he should walk away. They had agreed to stay apart until he was ready. But his feet moved toward her anyway. "Blessing," he called softly. She turned, and her face lit up for just a second before worry replaced the joy. John, what are you doing here? If anyone sees. I know. I needed to see you. She looked around quickly, then pulled him into the small space between the restaurant and the building next to it. It was dark and hidden from view. What's wrong? She asked, studying his face. You look worried. He hadn't planned to tell her. He didn't want her to worry. But the words came out anyway. My landlord called. I have 1 week to pay my rent or I'm out on the street. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh, John. How much do you need? Don't worry about it. I'll figure something out. I just wanted to see you. But Blessing's mind was already working. She thought about the little bit of money she had saved from tips. It wasn't much, but maybe it would help. Then she thought about something else. Her uncle kept money in his room. Lots of money. He always had cash lying around on his table. He was careless with it because he had so much. He would never notice if a little went missing. I can help you, she said suddenly. No, John's voice was firm. I don't want your money. You work too hard for what little you have. But if you lose your room, I'll sleep at the workshop. I'll figure it out. But I won't take money from you. She wanted to argue, but she could see he meant it. So she just nodded and held his hand tight. Everything will be okay, she whispered. God will make a way. He wished he had her faith. He pulled her close and held her, breathing in the smell of her hair mixed with cooking oil and soap. For just a moment, the world felt okay. They pulled apart, and he kissed her forehead. I should go before someone sees us. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Be strong, John. Please be strong. He walked away, and Blessing stood in the dark space between the buildings, her heart breaking. She couldn't let him suffer. She couldn't watch him lose everything. That night, after everyone was asleep, Blessing lay on her mat thinking. Her uncle's money was just in the next room. Nobody would know. She would take just enough to help with the rent. When John got his own shop like he promised, she would find a way to put it back. It wasn't really stealing if she was planning to return it. Right. At 2 a.m, she got up quietly. The house was silent except for her uncle's loud breathing from his room. Mama Chico and Ruth were asleep in their room. She walked slowly, carefully, her heart beating so loud she was sure it would wake everyone. She pushed open her uncle's door just a little. It didn't make any noise. The moonlight coming through the window showed her uncle asleep in his bed. On the table next to him was a pile of money held together with a rubber band. Her hands were shaking as she reached for it. She took 3 notes from the middle of the pile, hoping he wouldn't notice they were gone. She folded them quickly and put them in her dress pocket. Then she backed out of the room as quietly as she had entered. Back on her mat, she couldn't sleep. Her whole body was shaking. What had she done? She had never stolen anything in her life. But this wasn't really stealing, she told herself again. This was helping someone she loved. This was survival. Tomorrow she would give the money to John. Tomorrow his problem would be solved. And somehow, someday, she would find a way to make it right. She didn't know that tomorrow would be the day her whole world fell apart. The next morning, Blessing woke up with the money still in her pocket. She had hidden it carefully, wrapped in a piece of cloth and tucked into the hem of her dress. She went through her morning routine like normal. Cooking, cleaning, preparing the restaurant. But inside, she was screaming. Every time someone looked at her, she thought they knew. Every time Mama Chico spoke to her, she thought this was it. She'd been caught. But nothing happened. The morning passed normally. By afternoon, she had convinced herself everything was fine. Her uncle hadn't noticed. The money was safe. She just needed to wait for the right moment to slip away and take it to John. Then her uncle came home early. He walked into the restaurant looking angry, which wasn't unusual. He was always angry about something. But this time felt different. Blessing, he called. Come here now. She walked over slowly, her legs feeling weak. Yes, uncle. Where is your aunt? She went to the market, uncle. And Ruth? In the back room. He stared at her for a long moment. His eyes were hard and cold. Someone has been in my room. Blessing's blood turned to ice. Uncle, I don't know. I had money on my table last night. This morning, some of it is missing. Maybe you counted wrong. Don't tell me I counted wrong. His voice got louder. I know exactly how much was there. Where is it? I don't know, uncle. Maybe someone came in through the window. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was mean and scary. A thief who only takes a little money and leaves the rest. No, Blessing. This was someone who lives in this house. Ruth appeared from the back room. What's going on? Your cousin is a thief, the uncle said, his eyes never leaving Blessing's face. I didn't take anything. Blessing said, her voice shaking. Then you won't mind if I search you. Blessing's heart stopped. The money was in her dress. He would find it. Uncle, please. But he was already moving toward her. His hand grabbed her arm roughly, and he started searching her dress pockets. She tried to pull away, but he was too strong. His hand went to the hem of her dress where she had hidden the cloth. He pulled it out and unwrapped it. There was the money. 3 notes, slightly crumpled. The room went silent. Ruth's mouth dropped open. Blessing, you really stole from Papa. Blessing's uncle's face changed. It went from angry to something worse. Something dangerous. I can explain. Blessing started, tears already falling. The slap knocked her to the ground. Her head hit the floor hard. Stars danced in front of her eyes. You ungrateful snake. Her uncle pulled off his belt. After everything I've done for you. After I took you in when nobody else wanted you. The belt came down on her back. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each hit burned like fire. Please, uncle. I'm sorry. I was going to put it back. Put it back. He hit her again. You're a liar and a thief. Just like your father. My father was not a thief. The words came out before she could stop them. Her uncle's face turned purple with rage. He pulled her up by her hair and dragged her across the floor. Blessing screamed in pain. Mama Chico came running in from the market, her eyes wide. What's happening? Your niece is a thief, the uncle shouted. I found my money hidden in her dress. Mama Chica's face showed no sympathy. Only anger. I knew it. I knew she would bring shame to this family. The uncle threw Blessing against the wall. She hit it hard and slid down to the floor, crying and shaking. Why did you take it? He demanded. What did you need money for? Blessing couldn't speak. She couldn't tell them about John. That would make everything worse. Answer me. He raised the belt again. It was for. She couldn't think of a lie. Her mind was blank with fear and pain. Ruth's eyes went wide. I know why. It's for that mechanic. That poor, useless mechanic she's in love with. The uncle's hand stopped in the air. He turned slowly to look at Blessing. Is this true? Blessing shook her head, but her face betrayed her. You stole from me to give money to a man. His voice was quiet now, which was somehow more scary than when he was shouting. You stole from the man who feeds you, who gives you a roof over your head, to give to some stranger. He's not a stranger. Another slap. Harder than before. Blessing tasted blood in her mouth. I should throw you out on the street right now, her uncle said. But I'm too kind for that. Instead, I'm going to fix your life before you destroy it completely. He turned to his wife. Call Chief Matthew. Tell him I accept his offer. The wedding will happen in 3 days. Blessing's whole world stopped. No. Uncle, please. Not him. Anyone but him. Chief Matthew was over 60 years old. He had been married 3 times. His first wife died under suspicious circumstances. His second wife ran away and was never seen again. His third wife left him last year, covered in bruises. Everyone knew he was cruel. Everyone knew his wives suffered. But he was rich, and that was all that mattered to people like Blessing's uncle. You should be grateful, her uncle said coldly. A thief like you doesn't deserve anyone. But Chief Matthew is willing to pay good money for a young wife. At least you'll finally be useful to this family. Please, Blessing begged, crawling toward him. I'll do anything. I'll work harder. I'll never steal again. Just don't marry me to him. He kicked her away. The decision is made. In 3 days, you'll be his wife. And maybe then you'll learn some respect. He grabbed her by the arm and dragged her to her small room. He pushed her inside and locked the door from outside. Blessing threw herself at the door, banging on it with her fists. Uncle, please. Please don't do this. But nobody answered. She heard footsteps walking away. She heard Mama Chiku and Ruth talking in low voices. She heard her uncle on the phone, probably calling Chief Matthew to confirm. She sank to the floor, her whole body shaking with sobs. In 3 days, she would belong to a monster. In 3 days, her life would be over. And John didn't even know. 2 days passed. 2 days of Blessing locked in her room with almost no food and no water. Her lips were dry and cracked. Her throat burned. Her body was weak from hunger. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the pain in her heart. Tomorrow was her wedding day. Tomorrow she would become Chief Matthew's wife. She had cried so much that no more tears would come. She just sat in the corner of her room, staring at the wall, wondering if death would be better than what was coming. On the evening of the second day, she heard a small sound at her window. At first, she thought it was a bird or the wind. Then she heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. She crawled to the window, too weak to stand. When she looked out, her heart almost stopped. John was there. He looked terrible. His eyes were red like he hadn't slept. His face was thin like he hadn't been eating. But he was there. Blessing, he whispered through the bars of the window. Oh God, what have they done to you? She tried to speak, but her voice came out as a broken whisper. John, how did you know? A woman from the neighborhood told me. She said your uncle locked you up. She said, his voice broke. She said you're getting married tomorrow. Fresh tears fell from her eyes. I tried to help you. I took money from my uncle to pay your rent. But he caught me. Now he's punishing me by giving me to Chief Matthew. John's face went pale. You took money for me. She nodded. Your landlord was going to throw you out. I couldn't let that happen. I thought I could return it before anyone noticed. He grabbed the window bars so hard his knuckles turned white. Blessing, I told you not to do that. I told you I would figure it out. I know, she cried. But I love you. I couldn't watch you suffer. They were both crying now, holding hands through the bars. This is all my fault, John said, his voice full of pain. If I had never come to that restaurant, if I had never spoken to you, none of this would have happened. Don't say that. You're the only good thing that ever happened to me. She squeezed his hands tighter. John, I'm scared. Chief Matthew is a bad man. His wives, they say terrible things about him. What if I don't survive? Don't talk like that. But his voice was shaking. I won't let this happen. I promise you, I will find a way to stop this wedding. How? You have no money. No power. My uncle has already been paid. Chief Matthew is coming tomorrow morning to take me to the court. It's too late. It's not too late. His voice got louder, then he remembered to whisper. Listen to me. I will come tomorrow. I will object to the wedding. I will. They'll arrest you, she said sadly. Or worse. Chief Matthew has connections with the police. His friends with judges and politicians. You're just a poor mechanic. They'll crush you like an insect. John let go of the bars and stepped back. He looked up at the sky like he was asking God for answers. His whole body was shaking. Then he looked back at her, and something in his eyes had changed. There was a decision there. A choice he had just made. I'm going to tell you something, he said slowly. Something I should have told you a long time ago. What? I'm not who you think I am. Blessing looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not really a poor mechanic. Well, I am now, but that's not who I was before. He stopped. The words were so hard to say. My real name is John Adeyemi. I'm the heir to Adeyemi Industries. I have more money than you can imagine. She stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. What? I left my old life to find real love. To find someone who would care about me for who I am, not what I have. And I found you. You're the only real thing that's ever happened to me. Blessing's mind was spinning. She couldn't understand what he was saying. You're rich. Yes. And tomorrow, I'm going to stop this wedding. I'm going to reveal who I really am, and I'm going to take you away from here. Your uncle can't force you to marry Chief Matthew if I... Stop. Her voice was cold now. Angry. Just stop talking. He looked confused. What's wrong? You lied to me. The words came out hard and sharp. Everything was a lie. The struggling mechanic who couldn't afford meat. The man who needed my help. All of it was fake. No, my feelings for you are real. That's the only thing that was never fake. How can I believe anything you say? She pulled her hands away from the bars. You watched me steal for you. You watched me get beaten for you. You let me risk everything for you. And all this time, you could have stopped it with one word. One word, John. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I needed to know your love was real. I needed. You needed. She laughed, but it was a bitter, broken sound. What about what I needed? I needed honesty. I needed truth. Instead, you played games with my life. Blessing, please. Go away. She turned her back to the window. Just go away and leave me alone. I'm not leaving you. Tomorrow I'm coming to that wedding, and I'm going to. I don't want you there, she screamed, then covered her mouth, afraid someone inside would hear. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter but just as hard. I don't want your money. I don't want your rescue. I don't want anything from you. You're not the man I fell in love with. That man doesn't exist. He never did. Blessing. I said go. John stood there for a long moment, his face full of pain. Then, slowly, he stepped back into the shadows. She heard his footsteps walking away, getting quieter and quieter until they disappeared completely. Only then did she slide down to the floor and cry again. But this time, she wasn't just crying for her terrible future. She was crying for the beautiful past that turned out to be a lie. The morning came too fast. Blessing woke up to Mama Chico opening her door. Get up, the woman said coldly. Time to get ready for your wedding. They pulled her out and forced her into a white dress. Not a wedding gown. Just a simple white dress that was too big for her. Nobody had bothered to buy something nice. Ruth did her hair roughly, pulling and tugging without care. You should be grateful, she said. Chief Matthew could have picked any young girl. But he chose you. Blessing said nothing. Her mind felt empty. Her body moved like a machine, doing what it was told but feeling nothing. By 9 in the morning, they were at the local court. It was a small building with plastic chairs and a tired-looking judge who performed quick weddings for money. Chief Matthew was already there, waiting. He was a large man with a round stomach and small, mean eyes. He wore an expensive traditional outfit, lots of gold jewelry, and too much cologne. When he smiled at Blessing, she saw that 3 of his teeth were gold. Ah, my beautiful bride, he said, reaching for her hand. She let him take it, but her hand felt dead in his grip. Her uncle was there too, dressed in his best clothes, smiling like this was a happy day. Mama Chico and Ruth sat in the front row, already counting the money they would get from the bride price. The judge looked bored as he opened his book. Let's begin. We have 5 more weddings after this one. Blessing stood next to Chief Matthew, feeling like she was watching this happen to someone else. This couldn't be her life. This couldn't be real. Marriage is a sacred bond. The judge read from his book in a flat voice. Does anyone here object to this union? Speak now or forever hold your peace. The room was silent. Blessing closed her eyes. Part of her hoped John would burst through the doors like in the movies. Part of her hoped he wouldn't come at all. Very well, the judge said. Chief Matthew, do you take this woman? The doors opened. Everyone turned to look. Blessing's heart stopped. John walked in, but he looked completely different. He wore an expensive black suit that fit him perfectly. His shoes were polished leather. His hair was cut and styled. Behind him were 2 men in suits who looked like bodyguards or lawyers. I object, he said calmly. The room went crazy. Mama Chico stood up, her mouth hanging open. Ruth's eyes went huge. The uncle's face turned red with anger. Who are you? Chief Matthew demanded. Security. Get this man out of here. But John didn't move. He walked forward slowly, and something about the way he moved made everyone go quiet. My name is John Adeyemi, he said clearly. Some of you may have heard of Adeyemi Industries. The uncle's face changed from angry to shocked. Even the judge sat up straighter. I am here to stop this wedding, John continued. Blessing is being forced to marry against her will. The man she's being given to has a history of violence against women. This marriage is illegal. One of the men behind him stepped forward and handed papers to the judge. We have documentation of Chief Matthew's previous marriages and the complaints filed against him. We also have evidence that this marriage is being forced in exchange for money. Chief Matthew's face went pale. This is lies. All lies. Is it? John turned to him. Should we call your second wife? Oh wait, nobody knows where she is. She disappeared, didn't she? The room went silent again. Everyone knew the rumors about Chief Matthew, but nobody had ever said them out loud before. John turned to Blessing's uncle. You're forcing your niece to marry this man to pay off your gambling debts. I'm willing to pay those debts. Name your price. The uncle's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Chief Matthew has already paid. I'll pay double. John pulled out a checkbook. 3 times. 4 times. Whatever he paid, I'll pay more. Release her. Blessing watched all of this happen like she was in a dream. This man in the expensive suit, writing checks with numbers she couldn't even imagine. This wasn't the John she knew. This was a stranger. Her uncle's eyes went big when he saw the check. 4 million naira. Take it and walk away, John said. Or I'll have my lawyers investigate your business. I'm sure they'll find interesting things about tax evasion and stolen inheritance. The uncle grabbed the check so fast it almost tore. Chief Matthew stood up, his face red with anger. You can't do this. We had an agreement. Sue me, John said calmly. My lawyers will be happy to discuss your previous wives in court. In public. In front of news cameras. The old man looked around the room. Everyone was staring at him. He could see it in their eyes. They all knew what he was. A violent man who hurt women. He grabbed his car keys and stormed out, too angry to even speak. John turned to Blessing. Their eyes met across the room. He walked toward her slowly. You're free, he said softly. You don't have to marry him. You don't have to go back to that house. I bought you your freedom. But Blessing's eyes weren't happy. They were sad and confused. You bought me, she whispered. Like I'm something in a market. No, that's not. Everything with you is money, she said, her voice shaking. You lied to me about who you were. You let me suffer for you. And now you think you can just buy me like you bought my uncle. I'm trying to save you. I didn't ask to be saved. Tears ran down her face. I asked to be loved. I asked to be trusted with the truth. But you gave me lies. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was watching this happen. Who are you? Blessing asked, crying. The poor mechanic I fell in love with, or this rich man in an expensive suit? Which one is real? John's voice was desperate. Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. I just know I love you. She shook her head slowly. I loved someone who doesn't exist. She turned and walked toward the door. John tried to follow, but one of his lawyers stopped him. Sir, let her go. She needs time. Blessing walked out into the sunlight, still wearing the too big white dress. She had nowhere to go. No home. No family. No money. But she had her freedom. And that would have to be enough. Dear viewers, this story was filled with emotion, choices, and powerful transformation. Tell us, what lessons touched your heart the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. We love reading every one of them. If this story moved you, please tap the like button and give us a big thumbs up. Don't forget to share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. And of course, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss any of our new stories. Thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed, and see you in the next episode.